Entrepreneurs Live. Today I am here with Mary Humiston. Mary, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. So today we're going to be talking about careers, and there's no better time to be talking about careers and, what's next in our lives and what's happening and everything like that. But what I'd love to hear from our live watchers and for those of you who tune in later is, where are you watching from? So where are you located? A couple of weeks ago, we had somebody from Australia and in India at the same time that we were on, and that was pretty cool. So I always love to know where people are tuning in from. I'm, of course, in Brooklyn, New York. Mary, remind me.
I'm in upstate New York.
Okay, yeah. So we're two New Yorkers here. Susim Kumar says, thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for tuning in. Let us know where you're watching from. And also, I want to know how you take your coffee. I am a coffee addict. I have my oat milk lavender latte here. And we're going to be talking about coffee and careers. So cool. So Mary, how do you take your coffee?
Well, Marie, at the risk of losing some credibility right out of the gate, I didn't start drinking coffee till way into my career. So not in college, not in grad school, not in even my first, let's say, 15 years of my career. And I don't know why. I just thought I'd seen it. Family members drank it black when I was growing up, and it just looked yuck, Get it till later. And I think then I needed it for my working life. But so I like it on the fluffier side because I came onto coffee much later. If I'm out, I'm always putting milk and cream and like a sweetener. If I'm home, I'm dropping in a little bit of French vanilla creamer. So I know that that's not like a hardcore coffee, but I love it. And I do like it just with a tad of something that spices it up.
Well, it's funny because I actually have this really big vat almost of French vanilla creamer in my fridge. So I'm
get it.
My coffee drink of choice. Of course, now that we don't go anywhere, we order coffee from the independent coffee shop near us. And almost every morning I get a lavender latte with oat milk. So believe me, that's pretty fluffy.
That's even fluffier.
Yeah. So thank you. Susim's from India, and we have someone from Harlem, which is awesome. So thank you both for tuning in. Let us know where you're from. Let us know what your career questions are, and let us know how you take your coffee. If you drink coffee, and if you don't drink coffee, how do you start your day? Jennifer says New Jersey, taking her coffee with oat milk and coconut milk and half these days. How are you getting the lavender? So they use like a lavender syrup, and you can buy lavender syrup these days, and it's fantastic. I love it. So that's my recommendation for you. So Mary, let's talk about you. You're the founder of Modern Career, and you're the host of the Modern Career podcast. What does that mean? What is a modern career?
Well, the reason it's modern is because it has to fit the times that we're in. So what we're all about is trying to have a conversation that's exploring how profoundly the world of work is changing, and therefore how profoundly it's going to impact how we navigate our work lives and our careers. So some of it's known because we know some of the impacts, things like technology, changing demographics, globalization. Those will continue to have massive impacts on the world of work, and therefore how we think about our careers, navigate our careers. And I can expand on some of that. But for us, it's how do we then take stock of that and realize that what we need to do to explore our careers and live our full potential will look very different than it used to look. And so for us, it's really, we think of a modern career, as an exploration. It's really a journey. And the journey is all about continuous learning. And we know that now because all we're doing is adapting and pivoting and learning. And again, let me give you the whole bit. And I want to come back and unpack it, but continuous learning that matches, the way we live. But, it's really about three things. Our philosophy in Modern Career is that journey of continuous learning allows you to bring your greatest gifts your most authentic self and your passions so that you can live the career you want, can have the impact you want in whatever organization or company you work for, and you can have the impact you want on the world. So the continuous bit we get because if you look out, pandemic aside, because that's sort of in a way, it's a micro thing that's happening in many ways that will have impact, but it's going to start and stop at some point in the large sense of it. But those impacts of technology, those impacts of globalization and demographics are going to continue for some time, and they're just unfolding. So we don't know yet the full impact of when AI is fully here and machine learning, quantum, and 5G. We're at the beginning stages, and what will be automated and what will still be delivered by humans. And so that's a big impact. Demographics, massively so. There are countries in the world and parts of Africa that have very, very young populations. The median age is like 20. I mean, it's going to be half of the median age of countries that have older populations like Japan, like the US, like other parts of Europe. And so that's a real impact on not just on where you might think about, opportunities and how you might navigate your career, but the burdens of supplementing pensions for aging populations and what that. And the other bit on the demographics too is we live in a time that there are 5 generations in a workforce at the same time. That's never happened before. So when I was coming up through my career, there may be 2, and you had to think about, how do you design something, let's say a benefit,
right?
Older workers, but also appeals to people just coming in. And that seemed like a big challenge. Imagine today, 5 generations with different backgrounds, different expectations, different, philosophies on what life and work means. It's a really big deal. And, so there's a lot of change, and it also opens up possibility for the future. But the more we understand it, look at it, try to see what does that mean for me, then I can think about where do I fit in with all of this? Marie, we have a framework that we use that's, let me go back. So in the philosophy, we talked about the continuous part of it. The greatest gifts, I think, is key because not everyone has the same gifts. We're all unique. We all are strong in certain areas. We have core strengths that if we really keep bringing them to bear, we can have the kind of career that we want. But we have to be able to know those gifts and really be able to bring them to bear. The most authentic self, well, frankly speaking, when I was coming up through my career, it wasn't a time. Even today, look, we have massive work to do on that front. But can you imagine a world where everybody, first of all, had the opportunity to bring their gifts and bring their authentic selves to the workplace and was supported and able to do that? Think about the impact of that human potential. Right. If we really allowed that and everybody was able to live their full potential, our world would be a completely different place. So for us, it matters because it's our career. For our companies, it matters because who wouldn't want to enable full potential if we really thought about it? And for our world, it matters a ton.
That's fantastic. I love that. And I didn't realize there were 5 generations in the workforce right now. Yeah. And as you were saying that, I was thinking, okay, so that means it's the boomers, it's Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, and I guess some of the silent generation. Am I right about that? They're still in the workforce.
Yes.
So that means that your career then can be spanning 50 years.
Well, that's the other thing on the demographics. You're spot on, Marie, that we're living longer, which is fabulous. And that means we're working longer. It doesn't mean we're going to do the same exact thing. Like, and we're talking entrepreneurial. I've been in corporate from the beginning of my career till now. I still have a job, but what I'm doing on the side is something quite entrepreneurial. So I think what we're going to see is more and more of these, what's now called a side hustle or a on the side, or maybe a full gig. And so people aren't necessarily following a one linear path and doing the same things. They're pivoting and they're following their passions and they're exploring things. And so the possibility is very different of what you might do in your career and how you might navigate, a 40, 50, as you say, a very long time. And I don't think of it all as about work in the way we think of it, like work is a heavy word. It's about just being productive and applying yourself to whatever you want. But it's usually something that you're producing, you're being productive.
Mm-hmm. I think I read somewhere that people these days have an average of 5 to 7 careers in their lives.
You quoted me. Yeah, no, you're spot on.
Yeah.
It's well, there are the few, and my sister's one of them. There's some who've been in one sort of role in one company for a really long time. Today, that's more and more rare. Still possible, it's fabulous, but most likely we are pivoting and moving, and we'll probably have not just the 5 jobs in a lifetime, maybe in time, 5 different career types.
I love that. So what are some of the ways that the world of work is changing now?
So, well, we mentioned some, the technology side, that impact, companies are all going through some form of what they say is a digital transformation, real transformations, meaning you're completely reinventing how you do business, and are becoming truly digital. Some are dabbling in it, but that has profound implications. So what we need to know about that, I was a fast follower on technology, but I wasn't always immediate. And so I pay a lot of attention to that because things are changing fast.
Right.
And even if you're a fast follower, you got to follow fast because you have to be able to work in a very digital world. And also businesses are really changing in terms of what they do and how they do it. The demographics we talked about, that's a big deal. And also it means that you will probably, and the globalization together, you'll probably have more opportunities to be truly mobile if you want to. At the same time, the world is saying we can all work from home and be really, really, focused, but you can also move around and learn and grow and have, a lot more opportunity across borders, across, within a country or outside of a country than ever. Your teams, you're more likely to work with teams of people that are from all over. It also means that, contrary to some of what you would hear today, that cultural fluency is going to be a differentiator. Someone who can really appreciate, understand, and leverage different cultures all over, cultures, again, in any aspect, you will differentiate yourself in your career. That's a real advantage.
I love that. There's a book by Andy Malinsky called Global Dexterity, and it's all about how the cultural fluency, as you put it, is really important. It's not a soft skill, right? It's something that's absolutely needed, especially if you're going to be doing business overseas or these days on Zoom, right? It's so easy to get in contact with somebody, and across the world. We have somebody listening right now who's in India.
Yeah.
So,
on those soft skills, since you raised, given the technology changes and there'll be more after quantum and more after, those true human skills that are very, very hard, if not somewhat impossible in some cases to replicate with technology, will also become more and more important and valuable. Things like empathy, things like influence, those kinds of softer skills. I don't know why we call them soft, but those skills are really, really important.
Love it. So Jennifer says she's on career number 6. So I just want to shout that out there because that's awesome. I don't know I think I'm probably on 4. So
true career number 4. Wow.
Yeah. So
like if you go to your core, and I'd be curious if she shared too, what do you think it was deeply about you that allowed you to do that? When you think back and you say, what what was foundational for you to be able to make those kinds of changes?
Well, I mean, I know for myself, and I'm curious what you have to say too, since you're the expert on this. For me, it was having so many different diverse interests.
So it was your passions.
Yeah, and saying like I want all of these things in my life.
Yeah.
I want to do creative things, and I want to be an entrepreneur, and I want to, go into these new ventures, and of course when I was just out of school, I was teaching. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
some of those careers are by necessity, and some of them are because I want to diversify.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what it was for me. I'm curious what you see the impetus usually is.
Well, I think, look, a lot of people have lots of gifts and lots of passions, but don't all go for it for lots of reasons, lots of life reasons, but the one that troubles me the most is confidence, because most people, when you dig back, they would say that's still an opportunity for almost everybody, that a lot of people hold themselves back because of confidence. Afraid to take a risk, afraid to, maybe fail at something. And I think that's just really critical. That most who've been very successful would say, sure, they may have felt the same way, but they went for it. And they weren't as afraid to say, yeah, I might fall right on my face and learn something and be embarrassed for a few minutes, but I get back up and I try it again. And that's what I think often differentiates people is it's a journey of also building and building and building our confidence to go for what we want. And
I love that.
Alone. We don't do it alone. And I think nobody, when you peel back those who really achieved what they wanted to, they had strong networks. They leveraged a support system that really helped them. And, you'll hear a lot, I'm doing something on Modern Career about creating your own board of advisors, which is not a formal thing, but it's somewhat formal. It's really identifying who are those core people in your life who have and can continue to as you look to the future, because sometimes who helped us in the past may not be who we need, especially if we're making a pivot.
Right.
Who can really help us and who can we help? So there's a mutual value exchange, and you're elevating together and you're achieving together. And that's what people do. You look at people in business, people in sports, people in almost any profession, they're elevating together, and they work. It takes a bit of an investment to make sure you're connecting and helping others as much as you're asking back.
I love that. I love it. So Jennifer says her first career was as an attorney, and she's a risk taker by nature and very entrepreneurial. So exactly what you're talking about, with the confidence and being able to kind of go for different things. That's awesome. And for you, you're on sort of two parallel paths at the same time, right? You have the entrepreneurial journey, and you have the more corporate journey. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm 30, I don't know the number, 30 years in my career, which has largely been in corporate. I can't say corporate America because I've worked outside the US many times. I looked the other day, and I think I have at least a third of my life has been outside the US, or maybe a little bit more than
Wow.
that. Yeah. I did a little study abroad when I was in university, and then twice I worked for a period of time, 4 years a pop. US, one was in Belgium, and one was in the UK most recently. But I am now working with Accenture, and I'm a senior advisor to them in their talent and organization practice. So I'm still in that corporate realm, but I wanted to launch this, and the impetus was when the world really took a big turn with the pandemic in the early part of the year. It had always been something that I'm deeply passionate about. If I look at any time in my human resources background, it's when you have an impact, or when I've had an impact on a human being, and they've really recognized that whatever you said or did or enabled changed their career, changed their life, brought the beauty of them out to full bear. What you remember. You won't remember if you did a benefits program or a blah, blah. It's not about that. So for me, it was like, how do we get more of that out there? because too much of it is still what I'd call a little bit of a black box. It's a few people know, or the secrets are in a function, but how do you get promoted? What if you want to move functions, or as we just said, pivot altogether and change your career? What if you want to take a bit of a sabbatical for family reasons? It should be really understood and easier today than it is.
Love it. So we have a question.
Sure.
Where did you study abroad, and what did you study?
So in my undergrad, I looked up a program that I sort of created. My undergrad didn't quite have this, but I wanted to study in the UK, and I wanted to go to Oxford University. Mm-hmm. So I created, I found a program at another university and created the bridge to go do that. It was awesome. So I lived with a British family. The education framework is completely different than the US. I remember right before I went, I was waiting for them to tell me what I was going to be doing. They were waiting for me. And I remember calling, and they said, well, we're waiting for you to tell us what you want to study. And I thought, what do you mean, what I want to study? And so what was beautiful about that is I got to create the kinds of things. It was largely psychology. I had a little bit of writing and other aspects that I was quite passionate about. But I got to design what kind of psychology they would, work with me on, what I wanted, what I would read, what I would do. It was phenomenal. Really awesome. For me, having grown up in sort of a smaller, place in a upstate New York, and it was massively culturally phenomenal to be exposed. And of course, I traveled best I could on a cheap student ability, but around a bit, and it was phenomenal.
That's awesome. I was just in the UK. Gosh, it feels like forever ago, last November, and I absolutely loved it. So I love that you had that experience.
Thank you for asking. Whoever.
Yeah, good questions. Keep them coming. This is a really great conversation that we're having. So what are some key components that you would say for someone who's navigating a modern career, whether they're making lots of transitions in their lives, or maybe they have two parallel careers at the same time? What are some things that you recommend?
Awesome. We have a framework, and it has three components, and they're so core that they really matter. It doesn't matter where you are in your career, what kind of a career, you're an entrepreneur, you're in something more formal in the workplace. It is what we call know, grow, flow. The know is you have to really know yourself and know what you want and know what's possible. You have to grow, you have to continually align yourself with, as we talked about, the changing world or changing needs within an organization, and continuing to align yourself with what you want. And then the flow is you got to just move towards it and go for it. I'm going to ask you a quick one, Marie. Which of those three do you think is the toughest? Know, grow, or flow?
Moving toward it.
But one in general, what would you think?
Flow. Moving toward
it. It's a trick question because they're all. I find that people, I think all three, but let me say, I find know so fundamental, and I think we skip that. Let's say somebody's impacted and they've been as part of a downsizing, impacted, and their role has changed or gone away. I think they move really quickly to flow. I just got to get it. Mm-hmm. And maybe they do a little grow, but what a perfect time to invest in know. But I think the knowing bit is deeply unpeeling because it can change over your life, and it does change your life and career. Your core strengths, those unique strengths that we talked about, but also some capability gaps that are going to be gaps as you look forward in the world of work, and maybe on the, whatever, the changing technologies or whatever, some gaps as you look forward. The other is deeply getting to know what you value and what motivates you. We often don't think about these things. Mm-hmm. Down and go, let me just really get to know myself and explore it.
Yeah.
If we don't, and the other one is, so also energy and resilience. What kinds of environments charge you up and what zaps you? And really paying attention to that, especially today. when were you at your career best? If you think of a story where you were at your absolute best, and you'd love to tell that story to everybody, when this is what was happening, and when were you at your career worst? So they both really inform us a little bit. We do a little bit of exploring about what a dream job would look like, or your purpose, your ultimate purpose, and why you work, why you do what you do. We look at your network, we look at your brand. But these are things that truly, when we're busy, we might know them on the fringes, we might take some course, but it is an investment in really getting to know this. So you then go towards what you really want ultimately. You don't want to find out X years into your career that, your true path was here, but you were over there. I mean, again. So the growing part, though, as you say, is then about, so how do I shape my brand? How do I transform my network? How do I, begin to develop some of those capabilities that need a bit of work? And how do I leverage that core set of strengths? Because I can pivot that industry to industry within, that core set is a movable core set. What if my energy and resilience is really low? I've got to get that up and then flow, to your point, is what you guys just said, differentiated yourselves, is you got to get into action, and you got to get out there and try it and go for it. And it's a hard process. I, as an HR person, am embarrassed about how poor, let's say, an experience it is to go through looking for a job. It is full of rejection.
Right.
No, then yes. And so you have to have a ton, and sometimes you never hear back. I hear people say, which kills me, they go and they do all this stuff and then they never hear a thing, which is just wrong. It's all the time. And so how do you ignore all that and just keep moving forward, learning, leveraging your network to keep moving towards what you want in life? And it takes a conscious, I think, even a calendar check, because if you're really honest with yourself, you're either making time for it or you're not.
Right.
You're making it happen or you're really not. You're dabbling. And it's a big deal.
So for those of us that want to go through the No Grow Flow framework with you, where can we find out more information about that?
Well, on modern-career.com is our site, and we have the framework, the philosophy, a lot of information and resources. We also have been sharing what I call career stories, really talking to people about their backgrounds and what they've done and what they've learned and their insights and their, career inspiration and tips. And that's where we hold our podcasts. And our podcasts are all career-related topics. They're much like this, Marie. They're a conversation, and they're full and down to earth. They're hopefully not too, they're just practical, I think, and authentic. Yeah. What's coming soon, which I hope you'll see in the next month or so, is some career coaching. We're rolling that out in October, and also some career workshops where sometimes people need that space and that time to put the No Grow Flow into place and to have some guidance around it, which is really important. And that isn't always possible. Some people find that in their workplace, and some people don't have that. And so I make that more and more available.
Fantastic. So on your podcast, you're always asking for career advice, and you're always talking about what it takes to have a modern career, and you have some really great experts. What's one piece of career advice that you want to share with everyone today?
I would say for me, and I like many of my guests, I have many, but if I chose just one, I would just say, stay really, really open to possibility. Why I say that is because there are so many things that have happened in my life and career that I never would have seen coming. I never would have predicted. I didn't necessarily go looking for them. But when they showed up, I stayed really open to them. And they ended up being things that really made sense. And I did. And again, the beautiful question about making a study abroad happen and going where I wanted to go and getting out of that, those are the things that make all the difference in the end. But some don't look obvious, and some don't look like choices you might think make sense or, again, would have seen coming. But I think for me, I'd say stay really, really open to possibility.
Love it. And anything that you've seen pop up in the last 6 months with the pandemic, and any advice for people who might be looking for their next opportunity now?
Goodness, what a great question. I still go to a place of, I don't know, for a lack of a better analogy on it, you're in a car and you're on a journey, or you're in some vehicle on a journey. When you're in a storm, it's not the best time to do some things, but what it is a great time to do is take stock, let's say, of the ability to make sure you know where you're going. And there's a lot of time and space for some reflection right now as well. And there's a real opportunity for us to check in with ourselves and ask some of those questions. Are we, going where we want to go, and are we living the life we want to live, and are we having the impact that we want? And the other one I would really add is, in times like this, and for what's ahead, we can all have our foundation of energy and resilience notched up a bit. And I think that's not easy to do, but paying attention to that and putting ourselves first will have a massive payback. And so we've got to find time. I wouldn't worry about too much else. Again, you're in a storm.
Right.
Just keep investing in the basics. Sleeping well, eating well, exercising, getting out into nature, connecting with people that fill you up, that don't pull you down. All things that put fuel in our tank, because we can't operate without a good level of fuel in the tank. And that's really, really important. So it isn't about making a big leapfrog and doing something really, but it's taking stock and filling ourselves up. And that will help us leapfrog in due time.
Fantastic. I love that, because, your best advice for this is around, the whole self, right? Taking care of ourselves, making sure that we're at our best. This way, as we come out of the storm, our careers can be our best. So I love that. Any last minute questions from those of us who are listening? Please put them in the chat. We're here. We're able to see them. So if you have any questions, please do put them in the chat. Mary, what should I have asked you that I didn't ask you today?
Gosh, you asked great questions. I did notice you said they drink tea. Twice. I can really resonate with that. I became, and I am, a huge tea lover. So
I am, yeah.
Right? But part of that is the same, Marie, is kind of, we're all unique and we're all special. I would just keep saying, just keep in, to your point, invest in yourself, keep getting to know yourself, growing yourself, and going for what you want. And leverage whatever you can to do that. So people who are naturally listening into you and other things are probably people who do that more naturally or are thoughtful. Mm-hmm. But I would just say, keep doing that.
Love it. So to keep in touch with Mary, go to modern-career.com and listen to the podcast. It's fantastic. Some really great guests on there and some really great career advice. The career stories are really valuable. What I love about the career stories is that sometimes it's really great just to hear what somebody else's journey was like. Because sometimes we feel like we're the only one on our own journey, and you might see that somebody's been through something similar to you, or somebody might have taken a really different journey that gives you a different perspective. Mm-hmm. And of course, sign up for the mailing list and keep in touch for the October career coaching offering, which sounds amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing. Well, Mary, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to everyone that's been participating in this great chat and this great conversation. And if you're watching after the fact, go ahead and put your questions and your comments in the chat, and we'll be around and we'll jump in and answer them.
Thank you as well, Marie. And thank you, everyone. Just great questions in the chat. I wish we could fully be live and talk directly. But
Yeah.
as Marie said, keep the questions coming, and we'll do our best to get back on anything that's on your mind.
Sounds great. Take care.
Thank you.